There you go. And you have the light in the bar. So they- Yes.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Dallas.
I'll try to wrap it.
Hi, Tanya. I recognize you from,
Hi, Chris Bradley. Hey, Chris. Morning, right. How you doing? Yeah. My wife speaks very highly of you.
No.
I'm not a bear.
No, I'm sorry.
Won't, you won't let us go. That's crazy.
There you go. Again, or you go?
I'll sit
You're
here
gonna,
and.
you're gonna,
Yeah.
Hi, Chris Bradley. Your name? Hi, Tanya. Nice to meet you.
so we can see the window.
Yeah,
I'm gonna select this one and then I'm gonna-
We used to rent a place down there. That's the last game.
Oh, yeah?
There, Lawrence Lines.
Yeah, I wonder if it.
Yeah.
And I know you got.
Oh, I remember
When
you.
you said something. They have red and white sunshine. We'd like, we used to see an announcement, we're like, hello.
Hi, Tanya, hi. Haven't seen you since, in Green Spot, since I was a customer there.
Yeah. I would read people.
All right, very good. Yourself?
How you doing?
Okay, you're pretty good.
Marvelous.
Huh?
Marvelous.
Marvelous. Well, glad to hear
That's
it.
a good answer.
Please.
So were you friends with the
There,
Lions?
so everybody's being admitted.
We,
Okay.
yeah, we weren't, well, we were friends.
You got it down.
We used to rent.
How are you?
We're busy.
Yes, sir. You're already recording. Let's say.
Yeah.
What should we say?
Hello, sir.
Hey,
Oh,
good to see
don't
you.
say anything out of turn. Hi, Kim. Hi there.
It's like, what's that stuff?
Yeah.
You just.
Don't see you.
Hey, Paul.
Hi.
So you're from Justin?
No. Belgrade.
How do you know the Lions?
And here's that.
No, it's
only 8 years old.
Sure. Thank you very much.
And we stay here for every year we can. We're from New York originally. We love that place. My brother comes up, he said, let's go down and look at the nice campus.
It's a nice point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, let's go down. I said, "Oh, no, you really shouldn't be going."
It's so many families, somebody has, so I don't know, the name is not on, so, one of the jobs, yeah, they turned it into, Yes, looking, well.
Okay, we're ready.
Hey, Pat.
Thank you for all coming. And Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. I'll just call to order and we'll begin with our roll call. We have Lenny, Chris, Mike, Kimberly, myself, and you and Tanya. We're very lucky to have and welcome Tanya. She's a member of the Friends of Messalonsky. And if she's would like to, join our committee. So kind of the process is just ask, Tanya, do you have anything you'd like to say? We know you've been a great, merchant in the area with a green spot, which I sorely miss going to every day.
It's for sale, why don't you pick it up?
Yes.
Listen also, I just want to say that I've always lived in Belgrade, but I didn't have the opportunity to have extra time, so now I do, so here I am.
Well, we're very happy to have you here.
And Janet Townsend is my neighbor, so she's encouraged me. And we do a lot of gardening
Yeah.
and boating and looking at different things on the lake, so.
That's good. Yes, Michael.
Okay, finish what you're saying.
No, I'm
I was just gonna make a motion. I move that we advance Tanya's application to the select board with approval.
do I have a second?
One second.
All those approve? Unanimous, Paul.
What are we voting on?
Tanya's admission to the, our Lakes and Natural Resources Committee.
Well, I have one question before I vote. Hold on. As a secretary, I need to know your last name, Tanya.
Okay, my last name is Athanas. Athanas.
Athenas?
No, Athanus.
It's on the agenda, spelled out on the agenda. Oh,
Oh, I was supposed to read the agenda, I guess. I didn't.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
And it's.
Okay, I vote
TANY.
yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
well, welcome.
Yeah.
It's good to have a
Welcome.
parliamentarian Mike here to guide us on these types of things. Yeah.
Michael's, he's a good guide, Michael.
That's right. We'll begin with the second item on our agenda. At the last meeting, we talked about the interest in the town's recreation committee to create some trails on the town's property next to the transfer station. And there's two parcels there. If you look at this sheet here, the Long Family Trust parcel, that shows the town's 100-acre piece and the transfer station piece, and an abutting landowner that owns 270 acres. Couple of Sundays ago, Paul and I walked the land. Wanted to get a feel for what it was like, the topography, the access and so forth. And that would be if you're looking at the map, that would be the town land, 100 acres. And it kind of runs just to the east of the west of the town land. But when Paul and I were walking up, what we first noticed was a lot of wetlands. It doesn't appear to be what you see as a typical wetland with no trees. It's heavily wooded, but it's all very, it's been noted as being wet. And so we didn't even try walking through it because it was, that much, ankle deep to knee deep water, a little hummocky. So we immediately kind of just went up toward the 270 acre piece, which another landowner owns, and just kind of walked back to get a feel for what the land around it was like. Up there, it's been heavily cut, wooded, but the views are tremendous, looking out toward the lake, out toward the mountain range. You can see the Kennebec Highlands. That's from the 270 acre piece. Pretty spectacular. I was quite surprised. And then we came back down and kind of just had a little talk amongst ourselves. We didn't think it'd be difficult to do something with the town land as we saw it.
Now, does the transfer station use that entire property all the way out, away from the road?
No, that's what I'm gonna speak to after.
Okay,
After
go right
that.
ahead, yeah.
The next week, I met with Dan McGlashan, our rec director, because earlier, last year, they had put the rec committee was considering making walking trails there. They had too much on their plate according to their recording messages. And they kind of just put it off to another time, but Dan was very, very enthusiastic. I told him what Paul and I found was that it had significant wetlands that were mapped. They're also mapped on this map. This is the state map. And it shows that big wetland area right here. And around the blue inside the pink. But Dan thought that the area above the wetlands in the town land might be a good enough start to have a walking trail. And he's walked it before. He thought it could work, but we'll have to wait till spring or when we can get in there and really see what it looks like and how it affects the transfer station operation. But he still thought it was worth looking at it, whether it's gonna happen or not. Time will tell.
How did you enter?
We went through, right on the property line of the 270 acres. And up, we kind of skirted the wetlands, if you're looking at the Long Family Trust map, we kind of walked up this pink area. right up to the top.
Mhm.
And at the top is where you get some tremendous views, at least during this time of year.
So you went in from Dunn Road.
Yeah, right from Dunn Road. To walk.
So on this part here, where it's got the, dotted like a road there, is that? It lines all the way, quite a bit back in there. What is that? Where's the transfer station itself in relative to that? Is it off of that?
If you look right here, Chris, you'll see, it says roads, there's a little word roads right there. And it's right, it's got kind of just goes right on it's kind of right on the edge of each parcel, the 100-acre piece and the transfer station piece. There's a road going up where we go to the transfer station.
And so the, where you dump your stuff and the recycling, everything, is that, how far up that? Is it all the way out to, I mean, that goes out and then turns there, but that
Yeah.
seems like a long way. Is it, do you know?
I'm not sure from the scale here. You would have to, go up and see where it is and also talk to the transfer station staff and see what they may have all planned for that, some of those open areas for storing stuff, but
Okay.
I know that I go there every week, driving up there to the station, so it's quite a ways up. Where they have all the transfer stations.
Okay.
So is the conclusion or current thinking that even though there's a lot of wetlands up there, this still might be possibility for some trails?
Dan thought there would be. The larger parcel, was cut. I've talked to Seven Lakes about what they thought about that area is something, it's got a couple of things going for it, a recreation value and a water quality value, even higher. Because all these wetlands drain right down through there, and it's kind of it's sloping right down to the water on the Long Pond, so it's got a lot of, pluses to be a preserved property. I talked to some of the staff there, and they're, they've had this on their radar a bit, as a parcel piece. And then they talk to the landowner and see if there's any possibilities of a purchase or easements or something like that. It's all preliminary right now, but we just wanted to, it was really a scouting mission to go up there and see what it looks like. And Paul, do you have anything you could add?
Yeah,
to
I think
that?
just to back up a little bit for the new members particularly, to give a
Yeah.
perspective of what we're trying to do and look at. I mean, what's happened recently is that the original Lake Committee has expanded to the Natural Resource Committee, which is really in disguise the Conservation Committee. And as such, we are looking for projects that get more into the natural resources. And we're trying to get ourselves known in town and have an identity. So the thought has been, because there is this 100-acre piece that's owned by the town already, that wouldn't that be a natural location for us to focus on to see what might be able to be done there? It's obviously that that area gets a great deal of traffic due to the transfer station. And we have talked previously about trails, but just, I suppose even the easiest thing to do would be to develop an area where dogs could play and get exercised. And because so many people come to the transfer station and a lot of them bring dogs, and that would be, I think, an easy thing to do. Once we got to into doing trails, it gets to be a larger project. And Pat is on the stewardship committee of 7LA, and they have a capacity to work with us, hopefully would be able to work with us on developing trails. And probably the next step might be to meet with that committee, members of the committee, and see what advice they may have for us. And when we went up there, it became very obvious that the town parcel being wooded in winter was hard for us to access that. And so walking up the road and you see this big parcel that is severely cut at this point. That as Lanning Reich has pointed out in prior meetings, you know, in 10, 20 years, it will look a lot differently than it does now. So that's sort of the background and what our interest and focus is on this parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Question, comment. That wetland, is that a vernal wetland? Is that wet all year long?
I don't know from the plan here, from what I have in the mapping, for the mapping from the state, that I pulled up from the state mapping. So we'd have to investigate that a little bit more.
I'm just thinking if it's dry a good part of the year, we could utilize it too.
Yeah,
And as far as with the use of that land north of or up above the transfer station, I'd be willing to check with the transfer station committee. They would know what, have any plans to use it.
that's right. So we
Because it would seem, I would guess the transfer station has first dibs on it.
we wouldn't want to presume anything,
Yeah,
you know. We want to talk to them, make sure.
yeah, a lot of
There may
their,
be staging area for equipment in the future,
Well,
or,
there's that brush pile,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and it's getting-
back there, so.
that's getting
um,
bigger too.
You'd have to go beyond that, create a dog park.
Yeah.
And a parking area, for cars, and then go off from there for the hiking
Right.
trails. So it seems like it would make, a lot of sense.
As far as the trails, you might be able to work something out to go around, you know, around the perimeter and have the trail, you don't have to necessarily go through the middle of it. As far as the dog park goes, there could be an understanding that when and if they need to use the land, they have to, it has to revert back to the transfer stations.
sure.
That's a possibility.
So what we can do now is just keep it, you know, there's no action items now, but just probably wait till spring and see what it looks like. And Dan McGlashan, you know, brought up, you might be able to do some, you know, boardwalk paths through there, which those are expensive and maintenance issues.
Right.
So we really need to see it, you know, when it's drier. But
Seven Lakes Alliance has a lot of trails, but not as many in Belgrade.
right, it's all wrong. pretty much.
Right,
Everything's
so maybe we'd have some leverage with them. I was on that,
Yeah,
stewardship
sure.
committee,
Yeah.
yeah, but I own 830 acres, so I decided that my own stewardship was probably a higher priority for
Yes.
me, so,
Plenty to do with that.
yeah, but, yeah, anyway.
I think, you know, following up what Paul said, you know, the reason the abutting property might be another reason is because really, there's very few trail systems in Belgrade. Rome is, you know, the Highlands of Rome and Mount Vernon,
Yeah,
and
all of that.
and having it adjacent to town property and kind of gives it some synergy as a place you could do. So you know, working with Seven Lakes staff on that, just first to see if it could be acquired or should it be acquired or is it a possibility? And then they have several staff members who just specialize in designing trails and it could progress to them, you know, really taking over that part. You know,
And what do we know about the Pallone Family Trust?
that was sold to this, I'll just give you, when this property was for sale, it went online, and this was part of the information on the main multiple listing service, that's how I obtained it.
Oh, I see.
But it was purchased by Stephen McGee, a local contractor.
Oh,
Steve McGee from Gardner. Wow. Huh.
I see. So he's the one who logged it or had it
Yeah.
logged. Okay, so it's not.
Because I bought 60 acres from him that he had in Gardner that he'd logged over.
Yeah.
So he might be interested in.
You might be a good contact for him, Chris, if you.
Sure, Steve, yeah, he's a big cheese and.
Yes. I heard he's quite successful and.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, if he's logged it over, he might be interested in selling it. or
Yeah,
just selling part of it.
Did it look like it was all logged? I mean,
How long?
huh. Yeah, he might be willing to do that. And, you know, my land is 15 years later, it's grown up and I got trails in it and everything,
Is
and,
it near here?
what's that?
Is it your land near there?
Oh, no, it's in my land's in Gardner, yeah.
Oh.
We're- I've got land in Sharon too.
But it was clear to Pat and I, when we looked at and walked this parcel we're talking about, that it was very developable. It was very accessible off that's a private road, Sandy, what's the name?
Yeah. Right off, on the
And,
Sandy.
you know, and they're $1 million views. I mean, this could be really
Wow.
easily gobbled up and so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Right, it's
270.
Because the top piece, just that off the Sandy Cove Road, you go down there, it's kind of a gentle hill going down. As Paul said, so it's not steep, it kind of gives you like a 180-degree view. So as you go down the slope, it drops, topography drops, but you've got kind of a table up there that's just stunning. And be stunning for, a place to walk to, but you could do a big loop trail there down to the bottom up through. It's got enormous, potential as a walking area, just a recreation area.
It isn't that- But
Stormwater.
with that in mind, Pat, isn't it, can't we now sit down with, talk to Laura Day Rose and tell her of our interest? Because it seems to me, we don't have the capacity to buy 297 acres, but 7LA does. But we do have the other land, we have the town land we can have some authority over. So I think we should have some serious conversation with 7LA about this.
I've had several the last week. And with Laura Rose Day, some of the neighbors down at the Sandy Cove Association, very interested in keeping that land protected. Some of the other butters, so that, she's talking to them. She said she'd reach out to the owner. I follow up with her tomorrow or tonight, and Chris, I'll get back to you if she's got to them, or if not, maybe you can do it, or she can do it, however you think is best. But I think she's talked to him before, so that's. And
She's talked to,
Mr. McGee on
McGee?
other things, that he's done.
yeah, when you mentioned the views, that sort of changes the cost of
Yeah.
the land significantly. And Seven Lakes Alliance doesn't typically they don't have a bunch of money. They will go out and try to find contributions to facilitate the acquisition of anything. So if the neighbors down there are interested, that would be good, because they would be
Exactly, you're gonna,
potential.
it's not like it takes a while to raise the money,
Yeah,
and looking at the views there, it's the real deal. It's like,
yeah, wow.
Oh, why don't you buy it for us?
You're always guiding me, Michael. It's wonderful.
And you, rich out-of-state lawyer, you ought to be able to.
Right, yeah.
Right now, I'm trying to deal with Camp Bombazine. That's my priority.
Bill,
Paul's got a good eye for real estate, I'll tell you that. So maybe as a next step, I'll just contact Seven Lakes Alliance with Laura Rose Day, see where they're at with it, and then get back to everybody here what their interest is. We can, as far as with the town, we can, talk to Dan McGlashan again in the spring and see what, what they think, and probably talk to a recreation committee and the transportation committee as things get more serious on it, but.
could we, move as a first step towards the dog park,
Yeah.
regardless of the trails?
I believe so, yeah.
That might,
That was kind of one that was noted early on, right, because it's a community event almost when you have a dog park.
yeah, no, and it makes,
Warm people up to the idea of
Yeah.
maybe,
Maybe we'll go farther, but
Yeah.
maybe have the dog park and
right where everybody goes every week, so that's.
the camaraderie you can get with the dogs around the other residents.
Only issue comes to mind is the transfer station's closed.
It's only open 2 days a week.
Right, there was interest in a dog park on the part of at least one of the select persons.
Yes, Melanie Jewel.
Or Melanie's, right? On the 100 acre parcel, it's not part of the transfer station. On that parcel, right up near the road, right up near Dunn Road. Whether or not, I have not actually been and looked at the property, so I don't know whether the map here shows the wetland coming right up to the road, so I don't know whether it's viable or not, but I know, I've been told that that's what she's interested in. So.
Who owns that land?
Hmm?
Who owns that land?
Oh, the town, that's the town's land, so the parcel, the 100 acre parcel does come right up to the road, but,
It's outside the fence, outside the gate.
yeah, oh, yeah, outside the gate. Oh, yeah, this is not part of the, at least I don't believe that this is part of the.
So do you think that the
Transfer
100
station.
acres is this chunk here, not including the transfer station, or is the 100 acres the entire?
Let me show you.
I think it's,
I've got it in color here. It's a little bit easier. Chris, it's all, this piece in green.
So that's the 100 acres there.
Yeah, this is a transfer station.
yeah, it's separate. from the transfer station.
This is all the other piece.
Oh, right, yeah. So I was thinking this was
Yeah.
the 100 acres, but it's the green. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So it's,
This was
the
upland.
access is difficult.
Yeah.
Because of that wetland.
You certainly don't need 100 acres. for a
But
dog.
actually, back to the point you were making a minute ago, Chris, the folks, I believe that the folks, there are a couple of full-time employees at the transfer station. The director, Kenny, and there's another person who works there as well. And I believe they're there every day. They're not there just when it's open to the public. So if in fact there were a dog park on that property, they might be able to leave it open while they're working
Right.
for just that purpose, but not, with a big sign saying that, transfer of
No
materials is
trash.
closed now,
Yeah.
dog park only, or whatever. So-
I believe you meet some resistance to that plan.
I'm not, that's just off the top of my head, that's a possibility. I don't know. They might be able to set up some separate drive lanes so that you can only go in that direction. I don't know.
I looked at it, as you enter that into the transfer station road, there's a kind of a area you could probably pull cars off,
Yes,
and you might be just walk up.
to the left.
Yes. Instead of driving way up, you could walk your dogs.
Starting there.
Whatever.
But
And that looks like that would be dry over there.
that appeared to be dry,
Okay.
just it maybe like width of this room dry, that kind of.
Okay.
But enough to,
Enough to get up
and
there.
it's before the gate,
Mhm.
so you could leave the gate closed, drive in,
Mhm.
park and walk, walk
Yeah.
your dog up into
I'm fine,
the upland potentially. But I think it's definitely worth investigation and
sure.
further discussion.
Mhm.
But what can we do now? Is the question. I mean, just the idea of just deferring this whole thing till spring, I think we can do some work before that.
I think right now we should talk to, the recreation, Dan, the recreation committee, and also
7-Eleven.
And the transfer station.
transfer station.
And also the owner of that 278 acre parcel.
They're meeting again on the 21st, the next meeting of that group.
Steve McGee.
Right.
But it occurred to me that while I was musing today, that we now have 7 members for the first time. We're at
Yes.
full capacity. And that maybe we could start to have a subcommittee and to be more efficient. And maybe in this aspect, for this purpose, we might have break out a subcommittee to do some of this investigation.
I agree, Paul, because we don't want to wait month to month, things to happen.
Right.
Would you recommend forming one right now to kind of,
I would, think the idea of form a dog park committee to investigate the feasibility of doing a dog park there. Because as you said, it involves talking to 7LA, the rec committee, there's physical aspects, there's some legal aspects. I was trying to think off the top of my head, you know, is the dog park a legal use within the wetlands, within the buffer? I don't know. But all that could be determined easily.
You ever been to a dog park? You know how, you know what dogs do in the dog park?
What?
You don't want them in the wetlands. In fact, that's one of the questions, who's gonna clean it up?
Maintenance.
Huh? We are?
No, the maintenance of it. You know,
Yeah, maintenance is,
Well, people could clean up their own yard.
yeah, they should, but they don't, unfortunately.
They should have the, you know, the green little,
Baggies.
they usually have them in my pocket from, we just at Scarborough Beach for the dog.
Well, the point is, I don't.
Everybody does it there, they pick everything up.
Point is, I don't think you want it in the wetlands.
No. Paul, are you interested in being on that committee?
I guess if I propose something, sure.
Anybody else? I'm happy to. Paul, it looks like you and I could get things, you know, we started, we kind of
All right.
take a few more steps until it gets big enough that we need everybody else to kind of pitch in, but I think that'll be enough.
Now we can bark loudly.
What do you see that subcommittee doing, Paul?
I see the subcommittee meeting with Dan, meeting with 7LA, doing some physical survey work, determining what can be done in the wetlands, not done in the wetlands. Trying to find out where a good location would be, whether, you know, you also have the issue of the transfer station, which can be rather noxious. You know, I don't know about the winds blowing and where, I'm basically finding out where is a good place to put it and how we deal with coming up with a preliminary design, coming up with a parking capacity. I mean, there's lots of issues. If it's a development. I mean, all the issues that you're doing a development that I've done too often in my life.
Probably requires a permit.
Right.
Probably gonna need a DEP permit. I mean, all this it's a due diligence right now.
Need a town permit. Development review. I can't do the physical stuff, but I'd be glad to help with meetings and things like that.
Okay, good.
You know, permit by rule, I don't know at this point.
It'd probably be good to get Hunts involved, at least to some extent.
Who's that?
That's the code enforcement officer.
Yeah,
Yes, put it down.
Well, if you apply for that permit, you need to be involved anyway.
Yeah, right, but it might be good to get him involved earlier other than later.
As long as he's not in conflict.
I mean, even, I don't know, talk to Jason, maybe he's got some ideas, Station Stevens.
That's the road commissioner.
Okay.
Who's Jason?
Road commission,
Oh,
Jason Stevens.
So we're probably gonna need, what's our first step? What are we gonna do just to get going? Then we can kind of build on it from there.
I would suggest you start with the transfer station committee. If they say this is crazy, you can't do it.
Yeah.
That could kill that real quick.
And what is it, Michael, what's the organization of the transfer station?
There's a transfer station committee that oversees it, just as like, it's another town committee. And
Okay,
there's Kenny works for the town, he's the employee, and then I think there's 6 members of the transfer station committee who meet and, they talk about things that are gonna be done and, raising money and putting, you know, the usual committee type stuff.
who's the chair of that? Do we know?
Yeah, it's,
Is it Bruce?
Bob the plumber.
Bruce
Bruce
Kaluge.
Kaluge. Yeah.
There we go.
I'm vice chair. No, I'm vice chair of this one.
That's a good first step. Touch base with them, meet with them,
Yeah, might as well.
give them the pitch, what we think, see what,
Yeah, and if they have, it wouldn't hurt to have them on our side anyway.
yes. Go to them first, 'cause it's their land, you know, that's their prerogative.
It's town land, they have dibs on it.
How often do they meet?
Probably once a month.
Hmm?
How often do they meet?
Once a month.
Probably just talk to Bruce right off.
Yeah, you can talk.
Meet with them up there, walk around, get some ideas, and then if it.
Right.
Needs to have their committee,
It's written, the transfer station itself is real cramped, so I mean, we have to figure stuff to get around that.
Yeah. only a walk to kind of walk through the, how would this work? Where would you walk? What would impact the transfer station? How are you gonna get there? Parking? Where would the dogs go? Is this gonna interfere with any, current transfer station work or
Well, if there's
or
enough
stuff they
room,
may
if there's enough
envision?
room in that lower piece of land, that strikes me as being the best possibility, because you don't have to worry about the gate being open or anything.
Yeah.
And you really don't need more than a couple of acres. And you don't need a big
No,
use.
we don't need 40 acres, so.
No, an acre or two will do it. Most of
The
them are-
other possibility is from the gate to the east, back towards, the North Road. There's woods right there, so that might be, what's that?
Where's the north road?
You mean West
Wasn't it the
Road?
North Road?
West
The
Road.
west,
Yeah, okay.
sorry,
All right, no, it's all
wrong
right.
direction.
Thinking of road I hadn't heard of.
No, no. West Road, so there's a chunk of woods in there.
Yeah, that
And
might
who-
be.
Who owns that parcel? We have to look into all
It's
this.
the transfer station.
Right, we'll have to see where their boundaries are, and that might be, I know
That's dry at least, it's heavily wooded. So it requires clear cut and, dozer to rub out the stuff, but, and then plant a lawn, basically. That's what you would do.
because the parcel next to that's already, someone did that.
Yeah, somebody already did that. The next one up.
Yeah, the next one up, so would be,
They may have some ideas themselves.
Yeah.
Where's a good place to put it?
You think there's would be any interest to raise money in town for private money for a dog park in Belgrade?
Sure.
yeah,
I would think so.
there's a lot of dog owners.
I think
Okay.
most of them don't look at it.
You don't?
I do.
Paul, to get this started, do you wanna? Who would you like to have contact Bruce? Bruce Galoush,
Well, I can try and reach, I'm gonna be up this weekend,
yeah,
not this week. But yeah, this weekend I'm coming up, so I'll be there Monday.
maybe we give him a phone call before, then,
I'll touch base with Bruce
okay, good.
and we'll go from there.
It's about getting on the agenda.
Yeah.
He's gotta bounce back to maybe in.
Yeah, at least we'll get it out there. We're interested in, at least, see how.
And they normally meet on Monday, but this month it's.
Any more on on this topic? Next item on the agenda. Kimberly and I are on the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, which is really dovetailed with a lot of the things we're doing in this committee. They're looking at the old plan, the 2014 plan, and we're updating it, updates every 10 years. And there's three topics that we should be weighing in on, which is the land use, the natural resource section, and the land use plan. These are three distinct items that the comprehensive plan addresses. And how it works is the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments is our kind of leading this, putting it together. And they look back and do all the due diligence work, research, what was in the last plan, what they recommend in this plan, what they can do. Then it becomes the responsibility of the town to add their piece, which is in the case of natural resources would be significant, what do we want as a town to preserve land? What's important? Always it's going to be water quality, open space protection, public use of land, and where should it be? what should the town be doing? And how are we gonna work with other agencies, like Seven Lakes Alliance, you know?
Welcome among yourselves.
I think, you received an email today,
Yeah.
it was today, that the schedule's gonna shift a little bit, and I haven't seen the new schedule yet, have you had?
Not,
Oh, it was yesterday, I'm sorry. So I don't know the dates on those.
I think the natural resources, if you could look at in these sheets here, this is the, from Kennebec Valley Council of Government. Number 7, natural resources.
Yes.
And in that, it kind of, it shows, it goes through the methodology, what they do. They give you the KV cog's responsibilities and the local responsibilities. The local responsibilities is the town with this, with our participation. And I'm not sure what they're gonna show us, you know, yet, because they haven't produced their, you know, their drawings and illustrations and recommendations. But they will soon, and then we can share, what we do is share them with everybody here, so we know what they're, and it's very, you know, it's 2 or 3 or 4 pages of on each topic, and how it works is a comprehensive plan, meets with them, committee meets with them, anybody from the public can come weigh in, and they go over it by item, make changes, maybe in some cases add more work, hey, we have a question on this, what should we be doing on this? What can we do on that? So it's kind of interactive, you know, putting together the plan. This is gonna be, I think, around March 24th.
I think so. I haven't seen the new schedule. I just know there is a new schedule.
So when we receive that, we'll circulate it there, then, you know, everybody here will have a chance to read through it. And it'll be probably 4 or 5 pages of documents. And it really gives you, they do a really deep dive into everything, much more than I would have thought originally.
And it also makes sense for those of us who can, or who are interested to even attend that
Yeah,
comprehensive plan community when it's addressing the issues that this committee also works on.
Yeah.
It might be helpful.
Does it seem like the schedule's slipping a bit?
It has slipped, yes.
yeah.
But as soon as we get the new schedule, I can forward that to Pat and we can circulate it.
And that'll give us time to look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, have another meeting before it, you know, so we can be prepared to, you know, what's important for us to talk about. And then this thing, it's gonna be another year almost before it's done, so it's,
Finalized, yeah.
it's gotta be an ongoing process.
If, let's say that we think that the ordinances in the shoreline zone should be changed.
Yeah.
Would that come out of that plan, or would that be something that we would do independent of that plan, do you think?
I think we probably wanna do. That's all, could be either or, but I think what you're talking about, Chris, is big enough to be a standalone,
Yeah,
you know, on its own, not rather than in the big mishmash of everything else. And I've heard from select board members would suggest our committee look to these. But
or have they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that was my, our next agenda item that just came up yesterday.
oh, okay.
So I didn't get it up.
My understanding is that at the next select board meeting, which is a week from tomorrow, I believe,
Yeah, that's correct.
then the select board is going to, at that time, having had time since the last meeting to put their thoughts together on how should this be an ad hoc community or committee that is formed? Should it come to our committee to work on some of these ordinances about,
Yeah.
you know, whether we need to strengthen some of the ordinances is some thought from some of the community
Some ordinances around what?
around,
Stuff around, this is all about, this
shoreline zoning.
Shoreline zoning.
is about the one, all the stuff around 142 Woodlands?
That's a property that's a problem, and there's other areas also.
Okay, but that's the catalyst for all this
That is the
stuff.
catalyst.
Yeah.
Now, what are we talking? 142?
142 Woodland Camp Road is an address, and there's been a lot of controversy about the people who bought it a little over 2 years ago, I think, what they've done with the property and whether ordinance have been followed or not followed, and how that is possibly harming the water quality.
And that's on Salmon Lake?
No,
No,
that's on.
That's
Great Pond.
Great Pond. Great Pond, so you know where Renoya is?
Yeah.
So when you go down, Point Road to Renoya, you take a left just before Renoya, that's Woodland Camp Road. So it's down there, it goes down out to the point that Kimberly lives on. So, and they live right off.
They're about halfway down the road.
142 is right off of that, and, yeah, at the last select board meeting, I suggested that this committee be,
Yes, I
be involved, maybe you found that.
142 Woodland.
No, I
Yeah.
don't, it's risen to that level now.
Yeah, I think it makes
We're taking
sense
it
if
back.
they're going to look at something that we do.
That was,
That one
just,
was 105.
Okay, good.
it's for our committee to look at it, research it. You know, I think that's probably our next thing to do.
Okay, good.
There was,
What are they doing down street?
What aren't they doing? It's pretty drastic.
Well, there is a lawsuit involved in that, so,
Definitely might be.
so I don't,
Yeah.
Some of it revolves around removing natural vegetation and replacing it with a lawn.
the lawn.
And there
The old
seemed to
lawn-
be a gap in the
lawn-
shoreline zoning regulations on how do you do that? Say you had to do something that you had to dig a trench to the water, you know, for some plumbing in your
Yeah,
home.
just outlaw lawns and be
Yeah.
done with it.
Well,
Good luck. Good luck.
there,
well,
in the ordinances, it's, you're not supposed to put in a lawn. But one appeared
But kind of looking through the regulation, what our shoreline zoning says now, if, you know, what should an applicant do? They should they, if they had to disturb the ground there because of some construction needed for the home that was in that 100-foot mark, should it be restored as before or better? Or which should be leaving natural vegetation or replacing disturbed vegetation with natural vegetation of similar type versus putting in, you know, 6 inches of loaming it and then seeding it.
Mhm.
and then fertilizing.
Yeah,
My understanding that, you know,
Solid irrigation.
grass isn't a good thing for stormwater management.
No,
now last night, there was, I don't know if you saw it, I believe it's available on recording. Was the candidates night for the upcoming, election, for sports select board. There are 3 candidates running for 2 positions. And, so they were in this very room, from 6:30 until 7:30, there were, questions from the moderator, who was, Gina Coppins, and a couple from the floor. But the reason I mention it is that, references to some of the issues that are being discussed just now came up. And, a couple of the candidates, mentioned, support for, ordinances that would, one of them, Carol Johnson mentioned support for, an ordinance that would require, I'm not sure how you would do this, would require a buffer. Buffers, at the lakefront. And also, and this is something that's, I know has been discussed a lot among realtors, and we've talked about in here as well, require that septic systems within the shoreland zone be checked, be recertified every certain number of years, every 3 years or every 5 years or something like that. Not only when property is sold. Yeah, at least for a couple of I can't speak for the others. But that was discussed last night for a couple of the candidates. And in fact, the third candidate, Jeff Worthing, his main, he was not terribly knowledgeable, but his main point that he kept hammering on over and over again during the hour was support for keeping the lakes clean, or if anything, making them better. He wants them to be like they were when he grew up here, like they were when he was a child. Say better than they are now. So there may be a lot of support for these things.
Do believe that that candidate form was recorded. I think it's available online.
Yeah, they normally record those, so I would.
When is
so.
the election for select board?
Well, it's the actual election is the day before town meeting, and town meeting is March 15th or whatever, whatever. So it's, the election is on the Friday, and, which is around,
So it's
the
not
middle
on,
of March.
it's not on Super Tuesday, it's not.
No, it's not Super Tuesday. We have, or
You
on our
can get a
schedule.
ballot now.
Yeah, you can actually get a ballot anytime, starting now till just before the actual election day. And then, the so-called absentee ballots, which that's a misnomer because you don't have to be absent. You can
Right.
just do them here in the town office. That closes a few days before the actual election. And then the actual election is that Friday, which is sometime in the middle of March.
Lenny, could you tell us, I'm the seasonal member here, what's going on? What vacancies there are and who's running for the vacancies?
Well, there are 2 vacancies and,
Select board.
on the select board, there are 2 vacancies. Carol Johnson and Barbara Allen, who are currently on the board, are running for re-election. And then a man named Jeff Worthing, who's a volunteer fireman. And that's really all I know about him. And he's also occasionally been the animal control officer also. He's the 3rd candidate running for one of the seats. So it's musical chairs. There are 3 of them running for 2 seats.
Thank you.
Yes.
Pat, do you want to talk about this concept now? Is that?
Yeah, I think we ought to leave today with some plan of what we're gonna, not wait another month to dig into.
As far as, the ordinances?
Yes,
Yeah, for shoreline zoning. I'm thinking that, a starting point could be to go to, Seven Lakes Alliance. And I'm not sure exactly who would be involved, but Stuart Cole, but also, there's a woman that's involved, and maybe, Daniel Wayne as well, but meet with them and say I asked them to give us some guidance as to what could be done with the ordinance, because I've had a conversation with them recently about 142, and I kind of feel like they actually have somebody there it looks like in their job description, so. it's
erosion
like-
control manager.
What's that?
They have an erosion control manager.
Is that Stuart Cole?
Erosion control?
Erosion control. So I mean, there's,
Stuart does the conservation corps,
yeah,
and he does, and we got 3 people kind of diced into different aspects of erosion control and stormwater management.
and maybe somebody else as well, but in any case, I would think that, and my wife was the co-chair for a while, and so I'm steeped in the organization. I just feel like they can study the heck out of these lakes, but we need to take action.
Right.
We actually need to do something, like,
And we can only, the town has the power,
yeah, I mean.
they have.
Yeah, and it should be doable, I would think, to tighten some things up. but we need guidance as to how that would work.
Exactly.
And there are all these lakes around the country that have been going through the same thing. So ordinances have probably already been written with everything we can imagine. And I mean, I've got good friends out in the Midwest, and some of their lakes are beyond repair, and it's horrible.
It's very difficult to
It's,
turn that back.
oh, you can't turn it back.
There are several bills in the legislature now to give towns more speech.
Yes,
The problem with ordinances, you go up against some of these wealthy people, they can bankrupt the town easily.
Like at Sebago Lake, you
Sebago,
know,
yeah.
Raymond.
Yeah,
they
yeah, you
ran
know,
into that.
we had one case when I was on the board that we went all the way to the state Supreme Court twice. And he just kept filing, and we never got, in fact, I'm not satisfied with the final outcome, but that's the kind of thing that goes on, you know? So it has to be more than just creating an ordinance. They have to have some way of enforcing the ordinance and not, you know, not crippling the town. It'd be good if the state could kick in on these or something. I don't know the answer, but it's a real problem.
Yeah, I got a alert from an email on that, the bill that was relevant to this.
Yeah, just came through.
I'm trying to think of what it is exactly, but, yeah, it's LD 2101. It's, an act to strengthen shoreline zoning enforcement. So that's what we're really talking about, because when there's a violation of an ordinance and a fine, the owner can just see that or the developer can see that as a cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And that's gonna kill us in the long run. It's gonna be death by 1,000 cuts. And I think that, the lakes, everybody in this town realizes that the lakes are the draw that brings the tax base to pay for everything. So, you know,
It's a whole economy.
yeah, so it's,
Why we're all here.
and, you know, I'm the same thing. I've been on this lake on 8th grade pond since, for 67 years. And it's not as good as it was, you know, and that's gonna happen, but what can we do to slow that?
Sometimes I wonder if my memory was really, because I've been on my lake for 70 some odd years, and I think maybe we just thought it was cleaner than it was.
No, I mean, there were people drinking out of it, in the sixties.
He's right about Great Pond, it definitely,
Yeah.
trended down
Yeah,
over that time.
very seriously.
Yeah, I don't know, Meslonsky is,
My
Meslonsky,
family was drinking out of it.
yeah, Meslonsky is more like a river. It really is. It's the turnover and I think it's less than a year for the turnover.
It was
Meslonsky.
2 years for Great Pond.
Yeah, so six.
Yeah.
So, next step in this, I think this is something we should be right on and
Okay,
begin now. And probably figure out what we have to do first. We've got to look at the shoreline zoning and see where the gap is. And do this in concert with Seven Lakes staff, but
This is
do it as a team rather than just,
I think it's,
we do some, maybe
Biggest
some kind
priority right now.
of, get a game plan to look at it.
For
this particular use. And then we could find out what their recommendations are. The goal is to keep, water erosion, dirty water getting into the lake.
it's phosphorus in the lake.
Yeah, and that's gonna be
That's it. Easy to say, hard to mitigate.
Yeah.
I guess.
Do we have any direction from the select board at this point? For us to do
We-
something?
We think that on a week from tomorrow at that select board meeting, I believe we'll have further guidance. We'll at least know the direction they're taking.
Yeah.
I believe they're gonna look to us to
I think so.
be a big part of that.
Next Tuesday,
Yes, 6:30.
okay.
What's the date next Tuesday?
The 20th.
Does this seem to be another little subcommittee where we could
I
have?
think it's
work-
major enough that everybody.
Yeah, I
should
think we
be-
could all work on it.
So
Well, yeah, let's just wait and see what comes out of that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is major.
Yeah, I think it would probably be best to
See what they,
see what they say, and then use that as marching orders to go to, Seven Lakes
Seven Lakes.
Alliance or whatever direction we go in.
We'll just. In the
This
meeting.
is the primary purpose of this committee, as I understand it. I mean, the history of our committee is that we were formed as a mooring committee to come up with a mooring ordinance. So our job, and then it sort of segued into the Lake Committee, and now it's segued into the Lake and Natural Resources Committee. But the job of this committee has always been to come up with suggested ordinances to the town to solve current problems.
We are its advisory committee, you know, we work for the select board, that's who we, you
That's
know,
our job.
so they're gonna look to us to help out, do the work, do groundwork, do work with Seven Lakes and others, state, along with other, you know, town organizations. So I think Kimberly, we'll just wait till we hear from, get our marching orders or get direction.
We might want to consider, or I'll throw this out there, it may be popular or not popular. Since we seem to have a couple of pretty important issues to jump on, maybe meeting once a month right now is a little bit, maybe we should meet more frequently. And I know everyone's busy and has other, you know, plans, et cetera. But that might be something to do so that instead of waiting, so the select board, so instead of waiting 3 more weeks after the next select board meeting, we could kind of maybe meet that next week or something, just to hop on things. I don't know what people's thoughts and availability are, but
And that whole idea of the subcommittees, so
Well, we don't,
Well, this would not be a subcommittee.
this is just the,
this is for
I
the.
think that's a good idea.
yeah, you know, when things are very important, we shouldn't wait.
Yeah,
We
It's
should,
just gonna take a long
it'll
time,
be August, and we'll still be doing it.
right?
Yeah.
The bylaws don't require us to meet monthly. We just have sort of
No.
taken that on. So if we can meet more often, it's fine.
No matter what, it's gonna be still going on in August.
Yeah.
we'll be further ahead though.
It'll be, yeah, we'll be further along. That's about it.
Maybe the week after this, February 20th?
Maybe we can just see what, I think that could be a good time. Maybe we'll see what the select board.
The
asks us to
select board
do.
is meeting on the 20th, so maybe we meet on the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think of this as every 2 weeks
Yeah,
till we figure out what to do. Does that work for people or?
now is that 27th of, February?
February.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like John would be good.
Yeah,
Want to stick with our same time or
3:00.
3:30? I think.
Yeah.
Is it 3 or 3:30? I don't.
3:30.
Why did we change to 3:30?
A couple of us have
Somebody
work
had an
issues,
issue.
you know, trying to get here earlier.
Been asleep.
So our next meeting will be February 27th at 3:30.
That's a great idea.
And before then, we'll hear from the select board.
And that
Have a
meeting will
chance
also
to
be,
digest it a
well.
little.
that meeting will also, for the select board is always reported, so that's something that if you're not, I'm gonna be there for another reason, comprehensive plan. But you can always look at the recording afterwards to see what the discussion was, if you find that helpful.
Good.
did, Kimberly, did you get that, email from, Sarah Langette, about the, she's been involved, the planning board's been involved with, a workshop, they did a workshop, it's hard to describe it, but anyway, it pertains to the process of how a ordinance gets formed. And it sort of walks through the timeline on that, so I could forward that to everybody.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, I have it right here. But that, what happened is the planning board, hosted a DEP clinic at the town office here. They invited other municipalities, planning boards, I don't know if they attended or not. The presentation is on YouTube. It's all public information, but she thought that this might give us better clarity.
There was
Shoreline.
also a handout that had the timeline, which wasn't that was that on the
You
end,
can
on
see
the bottom of that
attached.
email?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
I read that thing the other day and that was, I need to watch the YouTube, the thing as well, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that, get that available.
Pardon me?
Can all of us kind of check that out?
You wanna make an ordinance?
I think that's a sort of, is that what it was?
This already happened,
Yes.
Chris? So it's just looking at a YouTube? Is that the idea?
Well,
And
there's a
some- and
YouTube, but there was also a handout, like a PowerPoint
Oh,
or.
okay, Right.
Word document, I just need, I'm not sure I can do it on my phone, I would have to do it on my laptop.
Do you want to forward that to everybody, or you want me to?
Can you?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do it easier than I can.
This is to pass an ordinance in town or with the DEP?
It had, I think it had more to do with,
With planning board,
it was shoreland clinic session. So I can't summarize it well enough what it was. I think if I forward it to you all. and you
All
can
right,
take
great.
it-
We'll Maybe look at it.
Easiest
Pretty
way.
good.
Tanya, I don't have an email for you. Maybe before we leave, we can exchange that.
Yeah, that's my name at Gmail, all one word.
Okay, first name, last name.
Yeah, all together, no capitals.
Okay,
If you miss one letter, they won't get it, but.
I'll forward that out to everyone tonight.
Good. Any other new business?
One other thing to mention, and I've just started looking into this again. I know the mooring ordinance has been stalled for different reasons or interpretation. There is, I think that's gonna come back as something we need to look at again or
Oh,
determine what
sure.
the sound
Yeah.
is. Because there's now a waterfront cabana VRBO rental that's being advertised for this coming summer.
Well, that's the,
Yeah.
that's the houseboat aspect of the mooring ordinance, yeah.
There was one on, was it on Long Pond last summer? Was it
Yeah.
on Long Pond? It was out, Long
Yes.
Pond?
Little
And
long
this-
pond.
This would be the first, to have it on Great Pond as well, so I
Well,
think.
right, according to Hans.
Who's that?
The code enforcement officer.
Hans Rasmussen.
Yeah, he's our code enforcement. He, as you may know, he claimed that when in the ordinance, we actually spent a lot of time in how we define a houseboat.
Yeah.
With flat decks and so forth, which probably would cover this cabana boat. But Hans claimed, after having taken the harbor master course in order to get certified as Belgrade's harbor master, that as long as the boat passed muster for a Coast Guard certification, which is how you get the hull identification number. As long as it had that, which this one presumably does, don't know. But if it does, that there's nothing that the town can do to restrict its use of town waters.
I think one of the other, another thing that was pointed out to me, and I have to do more research into it, is when the state came to the town of Belgrade to say that we have an issue with your mooring ordinance. I think they objected to the limitations on the moorings, not necessarily the part about the houseboat.
That is correct.
So there may be different ways that we could
Yep.
revisit that.
Right, yeah, that's correct. That the state, when they came to us, it was specifically issues on the moorings. There was no mention about the boats. It was Hans who said that we can't enforce the part about the boats because of the regulations with the Coast Guard.
They can expect boats, see if they have the placket.
And in fact,
If they're homemade boats, they probably don't.
right, if they're homemade boats, then if it's a homemade boat vessel, then our ordinance would stand muster, I think, or
Is
whatever.
it liable that it is homemade?
Is what?
Is it up in the air that it may be homemade?
No, I'm just.
No, I don't know about this vessel, this particular vessel, I don't know.
Time to go, yeah.
Yeah, the state had put together a group, I won't call it task force, but a group of interested parties to look at the houseboat problem, I'd call it a problem or situation, what should we do with it, because all the different lake associations and different lakes are
I
bubbling
mean,
up, they want.
technically, they could just park in front of your
Yeah,
property on the lake, right?
but
Yes.
the state was gonna have a task force to look into it, but I believe now they've stopped. There was a contact person who was given to me by F&W, and he's retired. I talked to Hans and he says after some months of trying to do something that just, disappeared. So there's, according to him, nothing active on this, on the houseboat ordinance on state level or any kind of regulations. Other states do, other towns do.
Other states do regulate these boats, so it is not really a federal issue,
No, it's a state issue.
state issue, okay.
But my question would be at this point is the town of Belgrade passed a mooring ordinance. And the, what is it? The state has said that certain parts of the ordinance are invalid. Does that mean that the entire ordinance is invalid? Or is it what we call legally, there's usually a provision of severability. If one part of an ordinance is invalid, it doesn't invalidate the remainder of the ordinance.
I believe that's.
As you were talking,
It is.
Lenny, it really comes down to Hans's interpretation of
Yes.
the houseboat ordinance. And it returns, it really comes down to what the facts are on this particular boat.
That's true.
So we may have, in fact, an ordinance in effect on houseboats.
Yep.
Yeah.
That we need to look into, but I think that we do.
True.
Because at the time when we did ours, 2 or 3 years ago, a couple of, the town of Wilton had one. Someone, I think Rangeley was doing one. The town of Palermo took ours and pretty much,
Winthrop and Manchester had an issue too, didn't they?
yeah. So it's a big issue in the state. Not they're grappling with what to do and how to, most of the landowner, people on the lakes want to prohibit them or reduce, or really manage it. Other people just coming in for recreation just want to do what they want to do. And I've heard that, people wanted to ask the town of Rome, can they park a houseboat across from the town beach? Can they park their car in the wind? So it's bubbling up all around. I heard that from.
That's crazy, because once again, I mean, more and more use of the lake and where, if it's truly a houseboat, now the cabana boat, I mean, I looked at that carefully and it didn't seem like, at first I thought the hot tub was on the cabana boat. And then I was like, wait a minute, so I'm not quite sure what that's all about, but boy, we just don't need,
They're starting light.
yeah, especially, I mean, any sort of bathrooms on a boat, I mean.
Well, and that's the thing too, on Great Pond, I don't know about all the ponds, but on Great Pond, there's no pumping station, so
Yeah.
whatever, it's not like you can go somewhere and.
There's there's nothing at all,
Right,
on
so-
any ponds in
That's-
all the Belgrade
I
lakes.
suggest they go down to Apple Cove, there's a place down there. And the people down there just love to see
Mr.
it.
Barrett, I can find out, more about you and, come get you.
It's in our discussions early on with the town on houseboats, one of the other major issues was the kind of the change of culture that a houseboat kind of place. You probably all seen Arizona and those lakes there, they
Yeah.
got them everywhere.
Everywhere.
I just looked at that. And now we're finding, in parts of Rome down by, the Meadow Stream, there are lots of boats gathering up there. And then up in the Woodland Camp area, down in that cove, they're, congregating, so they're not houseboats, but they're kind of like a pontoon boat.
Well, they all wrap
They
it
hook
up.
up to each other and they
Yeah.
have parties. They do that on the Solonsky too.
Yeah.
The Cove near us, there's often like 11 to 13 boats on the weekends.
So it's a,
Out in Cocktail Cove across from you, or?
No, right, not in Cocktail Cove,
Oh, but,
right down, all the way at the end, right in front of where the Thompsons are.
okay,
Yeah.
right,
once those, if they turn to being houseboats and mooring, staying overnight, then it, changes. It's another level of change and really,
yeah.
so it's.
And, what do they contribute to the town?
As far as the tax base.
Nothing,
goes,
nothing.
Depends on where they live. If they're Belgrade residents, then that's one thing. If they're, Portland, we need to move that.
Anyway, then there could be rental fleets along, you know, like they are in the southern states. Missouri, Arkansas, you see,
Right,
it's a,
slippery slope.
yeah.
It looks like a great business opportunity.
Thank you, Kimberly, on that. Any more old business?
Old business? Can do the minutes?
Gonna do the minutes, consideration of the January 3rd minutes. Paul, you did a great job.
I got a couple of mistakes, but other than that.
Mike has found a couple of corrections.
I have a question too. Why do we wait for the end of the meeting to have the minutes instead of doing it at the head of the meeting?
See, those are usually done at the beginning of the meeting.
Because there may be something in the minutes we want to discuss. But not at this hour.
We'll change that back.
Okay. I have on the first page of the minutes. Barrett agrees to assemble an inventory of trails. I don't remember agreeing to any such thing.
What did it say?
Huh?
I didn't hear you.
Barrett agrees to assemble an inventory of trails and determine if the town lands on nearest, whatever, et cetera. I don't remember agreeing to anything like that. Doesn't sound like something I'd agree to.
Well, it was,
Huh?
I took that from the recording of the meeting. I'll go review it again and make sure that.
They are recording.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and the other thing is, down below, you're referring to Dragon Masters, Ernie Wright, it's Ernie Rice,
Right.
RICE.
RIC, our erstwhile head select person.
RICE, okay, I'll make that change, thank you.
Minor. Other than that, nicely typed.
I made the changes from the last meeting in
We got
November.
those. Thank you.
Do we want to strike the sentence that says Barrett agrees to assemble an inventory of trails? That sentence there, you want to strike it from the minutes and then accept the
Sure.
minutes as amended?
Yeah.
Fine, that's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I guess. You could, you can.
Yes.
So then I would move to accept, well, no, we can get a motion first, then we can have further discussion. So I would move to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Or do we want to have further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Barrett had said he was gonna do it, he should do it. Hold his feet to the fire.
We're all in favor, right?
Yeah, I think yes, we're good to go on that. Thank you.
I wouldn't even know how to go about that.
Wouldn't be easy.
Can't believe I agree with something.
If there's nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
So are we meeting then on the 27th? Okay. On the 27th, okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks for having that. I think this is gonna be very interesting.
Good, glad you joined us.
You have to be voting.
I've got to do a lot of